Hello, hello, hello. What's good, Toronto? Whew. Wow, this is beautiful. Toronto is beautiful. You're all beautiful. To paraphrase Jay-Z, you could be anywhere in the world right now, but you're here with us, so thank you for being here. Anyways, let's go. So, what do I do, and what is the purpose of life? Whew, I have no idea. Really, that's a great question. Figuring it out. And it's going to be a lifelong journey that I welcome. Continuous exploration and flow. Whatever feels right, explore that. Doesn't, veer elsewhere. So if I were to come up here and say, like, yo, I got this, we're good, I know what's up, like, that wouldn't really be real for me. So I thought instead we'd get to know each other a little bit by telling you a bit about myself through some of the questions that I love asking people, usually right when I meet them. So the first, what do I love? I love the world. I love world travel, faraway places where things are different and way of life is just like totally the opposite of my human experience. It's this like, it's a reality check around everything that I think about and what do I want and desire and think that I need and my priorities. And then I'm in India in November and I see these kids, a family in the middle of the street in the median living there, covered in dust, more joyous and beaming smiles, like happier than most of the people that I see on the street in New York. And it just really, truly makes me question everything. Like, I think I want the new iPhone, this, that, whatever, and like these people have nothing and live peacefully, happily, and love world travel. I love being outside, I love nature, I love plants, I love trees, they're my friends, we hang out, right? For the last few years, I've basically started this tradition, I call it alternative holidays, where I spend Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur in nature with friends, thinking newly about how we can connect to the earth and energy and the world. I have a joke, which is, I really only have one, I think. In college, I used to spend my money on pot, and now I spend it on pots, because I love plants. I made that one up. Thank you very much. And I also love drone shots. I love content. I love capturing the moment. And specifically, drones are just so fun. I got arrested on top of Masada for taking a drone up. They told me not to fly it, and then I ran away, and then I flew it. I got the most epic shot. But note to self, don't do that. They get very, very angry, and Israelis, can be a little rough sometimes. What inspires me? Community, human connection, people. Community is the most important thing in my life, right? We're wired to connect with others, right? I don't remember the movie, but the person who's on an island by himself talks to a coconut, goes crazy. And without having a powerful community of friends, neighbors, family members, colleagues, everyone supporting you, seeing you, showing up for you in good times and bad, I truly don't know what I'd do or where I'd be. Actualization. My pet peeve is potential, is ideas, inaction, right? Because we all have them, but it doesn't exist in actual time and space. What exists is action that we take, is doing, is creating. So surrounding myself by powerful actualizers who are always thinking idea, action is just so inspiring to me. A couple years ago, I had this idea of like a little side project, vibey Jewish like jewelry, because it didn't really exist. And it was on my to-do list forever, and I forgot about it. And then one day I was, no, flip it. We're going to make this happen. Did it, created it, launched it just for fun. And it felt so good. Like there was a high of creating and being in action and actualizing dreams, possibility, potential. And van life. So when people ask me, what's my dream? I think they often are thinking, like, what's your dream for the Jewish future? And I'm like, well, if I'm really being honest, my dream is to live in a vibey van for a little bit and just flow and live and be anywhere that I want to be, present in the moment, and still be creating. And like, that's my dream. #van life. Check it out. What I think about. So what do I think about every day? What consumes me? What do I wake up, passionate for? The first, of course, Jewish love and modern dating experience, right? LOL J-swipe. side project, launch it kind of as a joke, Passover 2014, because everyone was going to be home with their parents and their families, and their aunts and their grandmas would say, so, who are you dating? And then it just took off, and thank God, right place, right time, hustle, blessing, and at this point, well, first of all, our first engagement that we got was 3 months in, and it was from a rabbi, and I was like, oh, we're not going to talk about that one publicly, because I don't want people to think that JSwipe is where only rabbis hang out, but now it's truly been a beautiful, unexpected, and wild experience that's taken me around the world, different Jewish communities, and really powerfully impacted people's lives. Also, modern dating, crazy. Wild West, it's confusing, it's nuts. I feel for all of you and me who are in the experience. Think a lot about that. We could talk about it at the after party. But on the theme of uniquely you, I just share quickly that show up fully as you. First date, don't hold anything back, don't guard, just show up. Be authentically yourself, fully expressed, because you want to find someone. Your person is going to love you fully, be all about exactly who you are. So many people show up to their dates and present who they think someone wants them to. Just be you, and if it's right, if it's right. If it isn't, it isn't. There's a wonderful blog post out there called Yes or No. Check it out. It's a motto to live by, not just in dating and life and projects and people and friends and business, and it's really been powerful for me. The millennial Jewish experience. Okay, so I have a lot to say about this, but in a few seconds or less, we, millennials, are fundamentally different than our parents' and grandparents' generation. The way we live, think, explore, and they don't understand, frankly, who we are generally, what we do, why we do, what our priorities are, what our values, how we dream in life or in Jewish. And the challenge is that much of the Jewish world, what I call big Jewish, the foundations, the federations, the organizations, are distinctly run by our parents' and grandparents' generation. And the projects and the agendas and the priorities are not speaking our language. So there's this huge disconnect, and everyone's wondering, why aren't the millennials engaging? By the way, we're the least religious, traditionally, generation in recent history. We're the most mindful and spiritual and intentional. But it's pretty clear to me it's because we're not having a critical dialogue together about what does this look like? What do we want the Jewish experience to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? And how do we create that? It makes me sad. It's shocking at all of the global convenings of the Jewish world where I believe we're talking about the critical things that ensure our future. And to me, they seem more like pep rallies and all is good and this is great. And by the way, here's a token millennial panel for 30 minutes. And it's alarming, truly. Vibey Judaism. So this is something that I really feel for and resonates deeply with me. And it's this idea that 99.99999% of Jewish experience, this is a personal experience, but Jewish experiences, touch points, opportunities, events other than this one, right, lack entirely vibe, energy, cool aesthetic and design, and it's sad because it's fully within our control. I like to think about things that are in our control and not in our control. We have an event and it rains, not in our control. We have an event in a space where we can make it really cool and vibey and people are attracted and interested. And then we wonder, I think about it in the lens of a college student, freshman, going to college, first time, independent, wants to be cool, wants to be liked, wants to find their, love, whatever. First week of school, and they have, an opportunity Friday night, and they hear all of their friends in their dorm are going to that really cool fraternity party down the block that way where everyone's going to. Or they can make their parents happy and go to this typically sterile white room with zero vibe and lukewarm chicken and a sometimes out of touch rabbi on a styrofoam plate, and we wonder why they don't choose that. Obviously, they're never, ever, ever going to unless we create an aesthetic and immersive experience that blends lifestyle and vibe and makes it interesting and exciting, so it doesn't have to be a decision of or word, let's go. But actually going to Shabbat dinner becomes word, let's go, right? It's all in our control. Okay. And then what I think about most often, on my mind truly, probably every day, is one question that I have no answer to, just further thought. And that is, what is the role of particularism? Particularism meaning the Jewish future, Jewish continuity, have Jewish babies, only date someone Jewish, you have to marry someone Jewish, Jewish, and universalism, right? Connected, collective, universal oneness, collective consciousness, we're all one. And it's hard for me because I feel for both. I'm living between both worlds, and I identify as both of them. So it's it's tough for me to decide where I spend my energy. Do I try to impact the global Jewish experience? Do I try to impact the world, right? At large, there's lots of problems that need fixing in the world, and there's lots of things that opportunity for improvement in the Jewish world, but where do I spend my time? And so to give you a little understanding of the way that I process this, I identify as a couple of things. First, human, mostly, right? Sometimes I think about that we're just specks of dust flying through outer space, kind of crazy, but like when clouds go by or stars in the sky, we don't really think about that day to day. We're just like, oh, stars, clouds, cool, whatever. But like, okay, human, got it. Right? Then I identify as a universalist, which to me means I believe that everyone's truth is equally true to them as mine is to me. Beliefs, way of being, traditions, connecting to energy and source, like we're all one, we're all connected. I or you and the existence of all of this and the floor and the butterfly, like our existence is universal and connected. That's how I feel. And I identify for sure as, I say, #Jewish. And I say #Jewish because like, I don't know what and how within that different labels. In fact, I think that they really shouldn't exist because I'm Jewish, I'm figuring it out, I'm exploring, and like, that's what's real for me. And all of these exist at once. And so it's hard for me to really ground into my why or my purpose or my calling when I'm like, well, I'm a human, universalist, Jewish, like, And so to give you a little context of how I got to this point, a brief history of, I guess, journey of life. I grew up in Miami Beach, Florida, little Jewish community. Many of you maybe go there for Pesach because it like turns up on Pesach. And we basically, I grew up like in the smack center of like all of the Jewish people there. And I went to Jewish day school, and I went to Jewish elementary school and high school and all of the things. I went to Jewish summer camp, very, very Jewish, very, very particular, right? Then around 14, I started, I don't know how or why, throwing parties on Passover. I rented a club on South Beach for Jewish kids in from out of town. And I first got this taste or this flavor of the energy and excitement of my calling for bringing together people, for creating space for community, conversation, magic, romance, friendship, whatever. Then I tell a lot of stories of why, but the real truth is I went to my cousin's bar mitzvah in Washington, D.C., and his school had a school dance, which we did not have at Jewish Day School in Miami Beach, Florida. And I kissed this girl, and I was like, D.C. is amazing. I have to go there. And so I applied without telling my parents to St. Albans, the National Cathedral School for Boys. Got in for sure because I'm Jewish. It was not for academic rigor when I was younger. And I had a powerfully sort of mind-opening experience there, shifting what I thought of as Jewish identity. In Miami, Jewish identity was everyone in my life was Jewish, everyone that I knew, all my friends, all my community. So it was like, how Jewish are you? What do you keep? What don't you keep? And in DC, like these kids didn't know any other Jews. I was like pretty much the only Jewish kid in the school, definitely in my grade, and I was like billboard Jewish. As like an irresponsible 15-year-old, what this person does is what Jewish people do. And so this was my first sort of flavor of universalism, understanding different ways of thinking, being, and how they all connect together. Whoop. Then I graduated. I went to Babson College in Boston. I did I was pretty much out of the Jewish experience, and it wasn't really a big Jewish community there, but I did the Jewish things. I went on Birthright. I had the most epic trip of my life, which we can't talk about, and then I extended my trip, and I went to Turkey and Egypt and Jordan and Cyprus and Greece, so both particular and universal. Most incredible trip of my life. I started something called the Mitzvah Club because I really wasn't feeling the styrofoam plates and the lukewarm chicken, and there wasn't another opportunity for me. And so we, gathered some Jewish people and figured it out on our own, and it was an interesting experience. I graduated, and then I went to New York City. I moved to New York City in 2010 for a dream job and to meet a nice Jewish girl. I moved to the Upper West Side because I was told that that's where they all lived. And I did all of the things that one does to try to meet someone. I went to shul, I went to Shabbats, I hosted all the meals, all the birthday parties. I don't know if you're familiar with the Upper West Side Jewish experience as a young professional, but I like to think of it as like the mix-up of like spring break and Jewish, right? But it was a really shockingly awkward and uncomfortable experience for me. So I was in, I was out, it was interesting. And then something fascinating happened. I was working at the social media agency in New York City, working on really fun brands that I loved, Spotify, Coca-Cola, Microsoft, like doing some fun stuff. And suddenly, Birthright gave us an RFP and an opportunity to do some work on, I guess, the Jewish world. And I was like, okay, let's do this. And I started working on giving my gifts, giving my skill, giving my expertise to something Jewish. And I started getting this feeling of like, wow, this feels really good. I'm going into work every day, but it's something that I actually really care about, not just selling Coca-Cola or music. That then led to something called Millennial, which was discussed earlier, but essentially is a social media agency based in Brooklyn to help big Jewish try to understand our generation. And like the young lady said, it's a challenging experience, but I think a really powerful one. And around that time, we started JSwipe. We talked about it already. And then I went on this Israel trip, Reality Israel from Schusterman Foundation, and I had a life-changing moment. And that moment was at the Kotel. With this trip, mind you, was half Jewish, half not Jewish people. Never been to Israel with not Jewish people before. Like seeing the people who weren't Jewish go to Israel, go to Jerusalem, the old city, put their hand on the wall, start to cry. I was like, what is happening? Why do they care? This is insane. So both particular and deeply universal. It was a more profound experience for me in Israel seeing that than seeing my friends sort of hang out or like chill in Tel Aviv or do hookah or whatever. Right? Then with that community from the Israel trip, I went to Burning Man. And I had truly, I think, the most powerful, life-changing Jewish experience I've ever had, which was Friday night, Shabbat dinner at Burning Man, 1,000 people, every different color and experience and just everything was there. And people were basically experiencing a collective, universal, pluralistic, integrated, beautifully diverse Jewish container. And it was unbelievably powerful for me. Then through the Burning Man experience, I was introduced to this idea of alignment. And alignment, as I think of it, is this concept where people, it exists, there's this idea of work-life balance. And in work-life balance, there's work, which is like an and then there's life, which is wow, and we have to figure out how to balance it so we can experience both, because you have to do both. The idea of alignment is when you design a life where your passion and your profession and your expertise and your everything is aligned, they vibrate at a frequency that is unbelievable and that most people don't realize or think that everyone here has access to. And from my understanding of alignment, I started to ask myself, what does bliss look like? What would it look like to follow my bliss? And through that, I ended up getting rid of all of the clients and projects that I wasn't passionate about, all of the non-Jewish clients, all of the different things, and really doubled down on giving myself to the Jewish world. And now that brings us to today. But I think in that, you can maybe understand this deep struggle of universalism and particularism, because I give all of my life, all of my day, all of my time, and I continue to do so. I literally just carved out all the other projects so that I could do this to the Jewish experience. I'm actually creating something literally called the Jewish Future Summit, yet I identify first and foremost as a human and as a universalist. So why? Why do I do that? It's confusing for me still now, don't have the answer. The only thing that I could say, because I think it's a pretty good question, is cosmic calling. I feel called to do so. I believe in outliers or hashgacha pratis. It's this concept that all of the things that happen so that I could exist in this time and space, to have those experiences and these opportunities to get me here today, to have a disproportionate impact on the Jewish world. And therefore, I feel cosmically called to do so. And so because I can't explain it further than that, I thought I'd share a couple of lenses through which I live into this. The first is this idea of trust and flow. Trust and flow in the sense that I'm not a planner. I don't have a 20-year plan, 10-year plan, 5-year plan. The plan is live a good life and be happy, right? But I trust in myself and in the universe that if I give myself fully to the now, it'll propel me upward and forward. The next is my favorite Hebrew word. I only learned it recently. Shefa, 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 shefa. Shefa means abundance. And this idea of an abundance mindset of either every thought, every trigger that goes on in our mind can either be processed through fear and scarcity, which we're conditioned through our upbringing to think about. So, am I good enough? Will they like me? Do I look okay? How are they out to get me? Why are they going to screw me? Or possibility abundance. All's good. We got this. The world has my back. Let's go. And blessings, blessing, 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 which to me means that if you ask me how you doing today, and I had a headache or I had a bad email from a client or whatever, right? If I said, oh, I'm not really feeling too hot, that's true, but it's so 10 feet level, it's so micro. Zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. Everyone in this room is living in layers of thousands of blessings that just allow us to exist and be here and eat and breathe and drink and live. Unbelievable, so blessings. And then core beliefs that sort of power everything that I think about, everything that I do, everything that I work on. Magic doesn't happen in the comfort zone. You have to push through the discomfort, whether it's in a relationship or a project. If you're showing up on a date like guarded because you were hurt before and you don't want to be hurt again, like that, no magic is going to happen there. Nothing can come in to like a closed heart. You need to be open-hearted, open-minded, lean in, go through that experience, and that's where magic happens. The power of authorship. I truly believe that we, everyone here, has the ability to create anything we desire, to bring to life, to actualize, to dream, and act it into existence. Right? The only thing we need to do is first know that, believe that, understand that, have clarity on what it is that we want to create, and take action to do so. The third is radical pursuit of alignment and bliss. It's something that I only started to allow myself to do about a year ago, but in first thinking about alignment and then exploring what bliss would look like, now when I've chosen what I do every day, rather than sort of wind up doing it or feel committed to something that doesn't feel right anymore, it's, if I have a challenge or problem, it's something that I choose, right? It's powerful. Co-creation. Everything fundamentally, I believe, is better with multiple minds than one. Multiple ideas, the richness, the texture we can get by coming together to create is where it's at. And I believe that it's all on us. It's on us. People aren't going to fight for your bliss or your passion or your dreams. We have to do it. We have to do it ourselves. So, as we explore your cosmic calling, your why, your purpose, I invite you to consider a couple questions. What do you love? What inspires you? What is a dream of yours? What do you stand for? What are your superpowers? What are your gifts? Don't turn down your light because you feel bad shining bright for others. Like, turn it all the way up and impact the world. What are you, specifically you, uniquely here to do? What is the future you want to live into? And what are we doing about it today? So back to the Jewish thing, right? I was having a Shabbat dinner. I love Shabbat dinners. I bring all my friends together. It's like my favorite thing to do. A couple weeks ago, and I was talking about the fact that, like, in the moment, I was welcoming people, half Jewish, half not Jewish. I was like, this is Shabbat. I was like, whoa. Shabbat is literally the holiday of chill. It's specifically for chillin'. I was like, oh my God, I wish someone had like told me this 32 years ago. I would have been like so down for this Shabbat like earlier, right? And then we were talking a little bit more, and my friend was like, wow, like these ideas, it sounds like it's like a new Jewish experience, and that word new doesn't really resonate with me. Like Jewish is pretty OG, been around for 5,000 plus years, right? Like new doesn't, but I was like, whoa, we're not creating the new Jewish experience. We're working on that new. Whoa, okay. I can get down with that. Let's go. That new Jewish Shabbat dinner in. RSVP, yes, let's go. Whatever it is, that sounds fascinating, right? The new Jewish experience. Let's co-create our world and that new together. Consider this a formal invitation from the universe. Blessings.